started here. A divine warning by the prophet for the nations. The citizens of all free national governments, according to their national constitution, are of one family bearing one free national name. Those who fail to recognize the free national name of their constitutional government are classed as undesirables and are subject to all inferior names and abuses and mistreatments that the citizens care to bestow upon them. And it is a sin for any group of people to violate the national constitutional laws of a free national government and cling to the names and principles that allude to slavery. So, as we're going through this today, it's terms that are being used, free national government. So when we read the divine warning, when he mentions free national governments, we have a better context of that. We might not know what free national government versus any other type of government. What is that? Let's go to the law dictionary. Let's define what a free national government is. The government of a whole nation. Oh, peace and love, Hassan, brother Hassan Islam.
Islam, brother, peace and love.
So we got, what's a free national government? A government of a whole nation, as distinguished from that of a local or territorial division of that nation, and also distinguished from that of a league or confederation. National government is a government of the people of a single state or nation, united as a community by what is termed social compact, and possessing complete and perfect supremacy over all persons and things, so far as can be made the lawful objects of civil government. A federal government is distinguished from a national government of a community of independent and sovereign states united by compact. All right, so that's by definition. So to distinguish a corporate state or a federal government, which, let's give an example of a federal government, would be the United States Federal Corporation. That's an example. A national government signifies organized people that form the organization that have the same nationality. That's a national government, or a republic form of government, which is not the same thing as a Republican or a Democrat. Federal government today, democracy is the style of government. In that style of government, it's a two-party system, Democrat and Republican party. In a Republican form of government, which is opposite of a democracy, the people that share the same nationality organize amongst themselves and form government. They discipline themselves and, have allegiance for the situation as a whole and stick to it and operate government. Now you have a republic form of government, all right? So let's continue. And if there's any questions, just blurt them out so we can cover it. So, of course, we have the famous picture, Noble Joe Ali in Havana, Cuba, at the Pan American Conference, where he was an ambassador for the Moorish nation, essentially a sultan, the last sultan in North American soil. Here we have Obama's wife, with the Moroccan flag and the Star-Spangled Banner behind her, which represents the treaty between our people and the various European nations that declared their independence July 4th because they were disgruntled of how our cousins, the brutish Moors, were treating them.
Islam.
Islam.
Do you have a list of the attendees
of the Pan American Conference?
Oh, but I know who all the ambassadors were. That's for public record. All the ambassadors for Guatemala, Honduras, Belize, Ecuador, uh, et cetera. Up in, Haiti, Jamaica, they were all there. So all you have to do is just the Pan American Conference of 20, 29 or 28. So you could just basically say, oh, who was the ambassador for these nation states at that time? And then you can pretty much, those are the attendees, I would say, as you said it. That makes sense.
No.
Islam. So the mere fact that these flags are there at this present time, if, for example, Hillary Clinton giving a speech with these flags, it's not like the flags got put up that time that she gave the speech. They've been there. It's a room in the White House called the Benjamin Franklin Room. These flags been there since the 1700s, before the Kingdom of Morocco, before, before it was a French protectorate established called the Kingdom of Morocco, because it represents the people that are today called Black, Negro, Colored, Hispanic, Latino, Puerto Rican, Indian, Native American. Before that was in the paradigm, the people worked together and knew themselves to be Moors. Yeah, they had different clans, but were Moors, and we elected officials called sultans. In the case of this treaty, it's a sultan, right? And that sultan had diplomatic relationship with different European powers. Our cousins, essentially, the British Moors, the English, and we allowed their Slavs, their women, their harem, essentially carry out jail sentences on the East Coast, which they call the pilgrims commercially in school, we allowed them to come here and carry out jail sentences. Right. So basically that information is right there. It's an antique. Right. So it's not like they don't know this information. It's just our people have to activate it. Only way to activate it, it's not going to happen overnight, obviously, but institutions, i.e. temples, that's the whole point of having them, is to get the people aware of these things. You got culture, that the people got to know the illustrious culture of what our people are responsible for. Then you got to know the international law ramifications. You also got to know the importance of organizing, centralization of finance, businesses attached to the temple or the body or the community, manpower, unification, right? So I, the prophet, was prepared by the great God Allah to warn my people to repent from their sinful ways and go back to that state of mind, to their forefathers' divine and national principles, that they would be law abiders and receive their divine and rights as citizens according to the free national constitution that was prepared for all free national beings. They are to claim their own free national name and religion. There is but one issue for them to be recognized by this government and of the earth, and it comes only through the connection of the Moorish divine and national movement, which is incorporated in this government and recognized by all other nations of the world. And through it, they and their children can receive their divine rights unmolested by other citizens that they can cast a free national ballot at the polls under the free national constitution of the state's government and not under a granted privilege, as has been the existing condition for many generations. You who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. Money doesn't make the man. It is free national standards and power that make a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens alone. And without your nationality, without your national citizenship by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I'm hereby calling on all true citizens that stand for a free national government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens of the United States of America. Help me to save my people who have fallen from the constitutional laws of government. I'm depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again, that they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution, the United States of America. I love my people, and I desire their unity and mind back to their own free national and divine standard, because day by day they have been violating the national and constitutional laws of their government by claiming names and principles that are unconstitutional. If Italians, Greeks, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, and Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, it is no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all other American citizens alike. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asks for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Any group of people that fail to answer up to the constitutional standards of law by name and principles, because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issue and names formed by their forefathers. The word Negro deludes in the Latin language to the word nigger, the same as the word colored alludes to anything that is painted, varnished, and dyed. And every nation must bear a national descent name of their forefathers, because honoring our fathers and our mothers, your days will be lengthened on earth. These names never have been recognized by any true American citizens of this day. But your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. The 14th and 15th Amendment brought the North and South in union, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, 1865, the free national constitutional law that was in force since 1774 declared all men equal and free. And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. So there was but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which is lost, which was lost, and that is through the above statements. Then the lion and the lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land. In those days, the United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens and my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the work that are being performed in North America by my people. And this great sin must be removed from the land to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do herein believe that this administration of government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good, but have always harmed them. So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into other darkness of sin, and there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world. They would not refrain from their sinful ways of action, and their deeds have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. And they fought the Southerners for all these great misuses. But I have traveled in the South and have examined conditions there. And it is the works of my people continuously practicing things that bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into the marvelous light from the prophet, Islam. Oh, oh, so peace and love to Taza Majiel. I believe I greeted the brother Hassan. Make sure I greeted everybody that came in.
Peace and love,
Peace.
Morris.
Peace and love, my brothers.
Peace and love. Peace and love.
No.
Whoever heard the divine warning, what I just read for the first time, we got things that were highlighted. And for people that heard it already, just the repetition and the things that are highlighted, and how we went over free national government. I felt it was very important to comprehend the mind frame of Noble Jew Ali and his intention with the organization of the people, connecting them back to the illustrious culture and what that organization meant internationally. He comprehended that it was not just a religious organization, but a divine and national movement, and a nationality of people with culture that organize and do great things. So I know it's a couple people on here on different planes of comprehension level as it pertains to things in general. So once again, the brother of Google Pixel 6a, I would love to do orientation. If not later today at some point. Same thing with brother Vernon Watson Bay. I know you part of a body. I just don't know where you're at with your comprehension as far as history, law, etc. So my duty is just to make sure everybody's competent and seeing if they want to unite with the body. Like I said, we all more. You could be as part of many bodies as you want to, but just have allegiance to it. And we can unify and eventually form confederations with different bodies, right? So let me know where your mind frame is at, Vernon Watson Bay in that regard. And, so Google Pixel away. I'm free after the meeting, after our general meeting is over. If you wanted to go through orientation, it'd be approximately about an hour. And then let's see who else. All right, so I'll just continue. Any questions in general? Any questions, statements?
Islam, I have one statement.
What was that?
No, there, brother. You can go.
This is Dupat Bay. And reading that the divine warning, and when Noble Drew Ali stated lion and lamb to clear up the true meaning of the lamb and the lion and the lamb, it's the rich and the poor. So whenever you hear the lion and the lamb, you're talking about the rich and the poor. That's part of the oral statement. That's oral statement 74, when he talks about bringing in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the 5 principles to establish. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up and give it to you exactly the way it's worded. So on the oral tradition, on the oral statement, not tradition, oral statement, this is number 74. Let me pull it up right quick. It said, the Holy Prophet said, if my principles are carried out, the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, the United States will be a rich and most prosperous country on the earth. If not, the worst is yet to come. So that clears up sections of the divine warning. So it gives you a more outlook at the statement itself. So with that, I yield the floor.
Okay, I got a question for you, brother. On what you just said. So the lamb, in this statement, the lamb doesn't represent a meek or maybe timid person in a sense, and the lion doesn't represent like a stronger, more bolder, more voiceful person. Like that's how I took the passage. But I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking. So the lamb doesn't represent like a more weak, peaceful, like type of person, like a meek person, and then the lion represents a strong person. You said it represents the lamb represents the poor person, and the lion represents the rich person.
Exactly. So
Okay.
if you go back and read the divine warning and keep in mind the lion and the lamb, you have a better understanding of what that divine warning is saying. So I understand exactly what you're saying when you're saying the meek and
That's how I took it. So I took
right,
it in the wrong context, correct?
right. That I
Okay.
understand that part, but this was given to me uh 10 years ago on what it actually represents. A lot of things that the prophet said in oral statements has another meaning. Sometimes has another meaning to it, or additional meaning to it. So this is one of them. It's just like the circle 7. You know, the circle 7 is just a compass in the square. That's what the circle 7 is. And we all know who bears the compass in the square. Am I correct?
Correct.
So I got a couple things I wanted to add to that. When you're dealing with the lion and the lamb, remember Noble Drew Ali was a master teacher, and um, you know, when you're dealing with the lion, you're dealing with Leo in the heart. You know, when you're dealing with the lamb, you're dealing with Aries or the ram. So when you're dealing with both those things, you're dealing with your mind and your heart, right? So those things must be balanced when you make proper decisions. When you have enough carnal experience, this temporary carnal experience we have, and you know, it's kind of like back to the genius citizens and all that, the things that he was saying in the divine warning. You got to know your code to have that balance. That you must have. That means you're disciplined in order to have that balance, right?
Wow.
Right? Because everybody don't got that balance. That's a rare space, right? For people to be disciplined and balanced, right? But typically,
That's
people that are disciplined and balanced are closest to it. Back to the classic example: Chinatown, Koreatown, Little Baby Jazz, right? People that know their culture, they appear what? A little more disciplined than people that don't, right? So you see where this is going,
wow.
right? To add on to what the brother Dupac Bay was saying, right?
Got you.
Also, you know, like I said, in oral statement number 74, it also said what would happen if it doesn't come together. If we don't live by the 5 principles, what will happen? So we have to take that in mind too. So you have to love, be truthful, peaceful, seek freedom, and most of all justice. And this has, with the more science, it's a continue to study. So you can't stop at one point and say you know it all or you know enough. It's a continuous study because someone else has a different degree to give you to add to the degree that you already have. So this is a continuation of your study. And the Lion and the Lamb was given to me by my grand chief and others that I have ran across. So be mindful. There's more things to study on top of your degrees. So as we study and learn, you go into a different perspective and it opens up another eye for you to view things because we have 7 eyes that we deal with other than the 2 that we see out of. You also can see with your tongue, your ears, and your nostril. So
Mhm.
that gives you a total of 7 things
Mhm.
that you see with. So you have to be able to be in tune with all 7 of those eyes. With that, I yield the floor. That's a different lesson, all within another lesson. So I yield the floor on that. But basically, one more word. Basically, we have to come together. We have to unify. This is a must. This is a must. So if you're not here to unify or seek unification, you're in the wrong movement. This is a constant movement, and unity is one of the main factors. Not all of us is going to make it through this. Only the faithful ones will. With that, I yield the floor.
Islam. Yeah,
Islam.
that's what it comes down to, man. And it's not gonna happen overnight. But the variables are is as time goes on, you're gonna see who's still around, diligent to it, right? That's the only thing that you will see as time goes on, and you got to build on that. And
Islam.
that's what it's about. So like the brother Vernon Watson Bay, he said he out here. Immediately, where my mind is at is, oh yeah, let's unify. He part of a body. You got some more out here in Khalifa. Let's see what we can do. Look at the meet and greet. That's what it's about. Let's figure it out, right? He was invited by that brother Dupai Bay, and that's how it goes. How it goes, right?
Islam. Could I say a couple of words?
Let's not go ahead, brother.
The brother DuPont is right on point what we saying with unity, but I will add another word. We need political unity. I yield.
True indeed. I second that.
Now let's identify what political unity entails, right? We talking about people buying in. We need manpower. So, organization structure amongst the manpower, administration to carry out things. We need capital to hire people to do certain things. That's what government do, right? We need to be in a position to employ hospital or sick, uh, take the trash out, have an organized system, police our schools, right? When we are operating like that, that's government structure.
Islam, and I would like to add too. I would suggest people visit this site on YouTube called Moroccan Post Media, and the political unity, along with what you said, brother, is having an understanding of Moorish sovereignty, Moorish history, and Moorish diplomatic relations. I yield.
Islam. Yeah. And everybody it's gonna take people to buy in at the end of the day. And you know, because we have a lot of, you know, sheiks out there. We got just people in general that know about international law. You know, we got a lot of competent Moors out there on the land. Um, so, you know, everybody gonna do their part. And my personal opinion is that it needs to be organizations and temples. Well, all temples aren't functioning, you know, an international mind frame. They're more on a religious, so it's like church in a sense, right? So not all Moorish science temples even operate in this way. So that's one hurdle. So what has to happen is it needs to be more civic organizations that, but it still needs to be a religion. It's not like the religion is not important. It needs to back to the lion and the lamb, the balance, the yin and the yang. It needs to be a religion for culture. So we know not only how illustrious our culture is, but how to conduct ourselves with morality while we're dealing with each other in real time. You know what I mean? Put the ego to the side and let's have allegiance to the nation state, right? So that's what the religion is about, you know, balancing your impulses and, you know, striving to be upright to the best of your abilities. And then the brotherhood that by default that gets formed because it's a temple, right? It's people that's part of body politics. It's supposed to be a brotherhood too, like a counseling, you know, atmosphere where, you know, anybody should be able to feel that they can express themselves on any level and get proper, you know, proper guidance. You know, so it's not just, you know, there's levels to this. And once again, once once that organization members is getting up, numbers are getting up, now you take it to another level because ideally it's supposed to be another body that's doing the same thing in another area, and then another body doing the same thing in another area, and then the heads of these bodies come together and form confederations, right? To to build communities and get the infrastructure domestically right. Then now we have representation to go to the international level, like what the brother was, you know, alluding to, you know, but it's not, it's, you know, domestically, you gotta get at least a foundation first, you know what I mean? And that's the boots on the ground. That's where the missionary work. That's what people gotta, you know, the newspaper, the press, or write a book, you know, promote, get literature out there so people can have something to compare it to, because all they know is kindergarten through 12th grade version of history. We were slaves. So in the active Moors, you know, with energy, you know, like at least 4 or 5 days a week, letting people know, you know, everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So these steps that need to take place. And like the brother said, it's for life. It's not gonna happen overnight. But you can have proper vision and help Moors do right. What Prophet Noble Jew Ali say? Help good Moors do more good. You know what I'm saying? You see Moors that's doing good, assist them, especially if you're in the same area. Let's compound the energy. Outside looking, they ain't gonna see unity, fezzes and turbans. That's the whole point, right? Be more magnetic. I have something queued up. Uh,
Islam.
Smile. Got something, brother Dupont? Let me check the chat too. I see something in the chat. Okay, 52. The brother is right. That's why it's a national divine movement, Islam. Any other statements, just in general, for our let's continue with what I had queued up. So no taxation without representation, which is what we've been talking about, actually, right? You're not going to pay taxes to a government that don't represent you. But what government are you part of, right? Or body politic, etc., right? That's why the temple have dues systems, etc. If you choose to notify your employer of your name correction and tax exempt status, as opposed to leaving all old business as it is, you can fill out the following document and use Article 14 of the treaty with Morocco and the 13 colonies of America of June 28 and July 15th, 1786. And of course, we know it was another one in 1836. This article is clearly related to the principle of separation of powers and sovereignty and national sovereignty in harmony with the present Act of State doctrine. Whoever's not familiar with Act of State doctrine, it's a case law that sets the precedent for nationalization or acts that are done on person's own land can't be subjected to a foreigner, right? What gave way to the Act of State doctrine was basically the Cuban nationals nationalized the sugar. The United States corporation had interest in the sugar, and they wanted to sue to get a piece. And it was decided that they had no jurisdiction in Cuba. All right, so that the principle, we can use that same principle as well. All right, in harmony with the Act of State doctrine of the federal government of the United States and the free national government of Morocco. So remember the Noble Joe Ali, Divine Warning, he used national government, right, of Morocco. So of the people, the government of the people of the land. National government distinguished from federal government. Federal government is corporate. Corporate state distinguished from nation state. Two separate concepts. As stated in Drew Ali's 101 questions, the modern name for Moabite is Moroccan. This principle of nationality can be related to the acts of the colonial United States and their relationship to the European crown, taxing the labor, wages, assets, property, income, and commerce of the colonies without representation. The phrase, no taxation without representation, first used in Boston in 1750. By 1765, the term no taxation without representation summarized the primary grievance of the European colonists in America, the 13 colonies, and was one of the major causes of the revolution against the crown and their eventual independence of 1776, what most people know July 4th. Many colonists believed that since they were not directly represented in the British Parliament by their elected officials, who reflect their social, economic, and political position, then by default, ipso jure, and laws it passed affecting the colonists, such as the Sugar Act, were illegal under the Bill of Rights, Section 89, and were a denial of their rights as Englishmen. So this was the Slavs' gripe at the time. All right, so Noble Joe Ali makes a statement and says free national constitutional law that was enforced in 1774 declare all men equal and free. Where are these terms coming from? They're coming from this document. You check the chat. Islam Moore, my son came in to oh, Islam, peace and love, Brother DL. So where is he getting this terminology from? Okay, let me check the chat again. Somebody just, Brother Dupat Bay, Moore Science Temple of America, 45, Sister A. Brown, Arab, something 425, said that the Prophet Noble Jew Ali said, I am going to leave the European long enough to teach you how to run government. Right. Precisely. So let's read the Declaration of Independence. Noble Joe Ali alluded to this in the Divine Warning. When in course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and the equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a distinct respect because the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. So what is this saying? Organization of government becomes necessary either to erect a new way of thought because the other way was faulty, right? In harmony with the laws of nature. And back to the earthquakes and the great things that Noble Joe Ali is saying in the Divine Warning. Laws of nature. The reason why it earthquakes is because of our low vibrational activity, the non-unity, the non-activity, not knowing about international law, not knowing what political unity means, right? It's not looking like, once again, Chinatown, Koreatown for Moors, or people that are referred to as Black, Negro, Color, Latino, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Indian, Native American. So, because it's not like that, it's a direct correlation with the universe. All men are created equal. That's what Noble Joe Ali said in Divine Warning, 1774, and he gave a direct date. That's when the Declaration of Independence was, 1774. This is what he's talking about.
Hey, Sheik, did you just say all men are created equal? Is that what you said?
All men equal and free.
Okay, got you.
Oh yeah, all men are created equal. Yeah, that's what was said as well.
So how do we how do I analyze that? Um, how can I say this? Okay, there's a difference in the European and the Moorish man. Am I correct? As far as how we built our genetics, the things that we can stand compared to the things that they can't stand, like, isn't there a difference?
Well, in this context, because when you continue to read, all men are created equal, comma, that they are endowed or equipped by their creator or have abilities by their creator with certain unalienable rights. So now we're not talking about the context you're talking about. We're talking about the rights of a human
Got
rights.
you. My bad. Got you. Okay.
Let me check the chat. Islam Moors should read the Treaty of Paris, which ended the Revolutionary War. Right. And that's like and that's the technicalities that we're looking into it with a fine tooth comb. We know it wasn't the Declaration of Independence that got the brutish Moors or the Slavs over here neck. It was the Treaty of Paris. Um, yeah, we went over that. The brother Abdullah was on here about a month ago. He broke that measure down. Let's see. Let's continue here. All right. So it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. So throwing off governments that are not rooted in positive law, tyrannical, you know, the people have the right to organize, the right to association, right? Now we're talking about human rights again. Um, I was trying to think where I want to go. We're already good on most of us are already good on this. That's why we're good on the whole taxes and Congress, how it states in the Constitution that Congress only levies taxes. The IRS is not a creature of Congress. The branches of government, right? We went over that. I'm pretty sure everybody's clear on that. And if not, just say you're not. Okay, I think I went off. I think I covered the context of this section where I wanted the context. I'm gonna move on to another section. Pull it up on my screen right here. 1 second. So I want to go over 7 elements of jurisdiction. Had a good repetition. Okay. So we have 7 elements of jurisdiction. An affirmative responsibility of any national or citizen is to adhere to and enforce the principles embodied within the national constitution of his or her national government, nation, state, and of society at large. The proposition embodies a primal rule in the civilization and involves the duties and of citizenship. Constitutions are designed to maintain justice, peace, and harmony within a social order or body politic. Therefore, for directives and social duties, and for general intersocial instructions, the advent of the universal orientated science of government, or what we call jurisprudence. You look up jurisprudence, it's going to say the science of government, same word. It's a synonym. That science is called civics, nationhood, citizenship, nationality, public services, politics, economics, and organized government in general constitute the science and discipline. Discipline. You got to be disciplined to organize and stay diligent and have you allegiance. That's called civics when you do that. You have allegiance to your people, organized for the betterment of the people. Civics. Constitutions are set forth to designate authority to those who govern and to delegate limits of authority to each and every specific office or seat. But the Constitution does not give rights to the national and citizens. Constitutions are in place to preserve the divine and natural rights that already exist by national and divine law. Divine, we're talking about divine rights and inalienable rights. Right? That was the verbiage actually in the Declaration of Independence. That's why the whole nature's law, nature's God. It's a recipe to be in harmony with nature. Knowing your nationality and culture and working together, setting up businesses and schools, knowing trust law, how to pass things down to the heirs properly, being a competent heir to an estate, that's in harmony with nature. That's divine law, divine and national movement, right? Noble Drew Ali was a genius. Constitutions are generally written to harmonize with nature's law and nature's God, right? Important aspects of the American Constitution that express the essence of it construct are demonstrated in Article 3 and Article 6. In relationships to the limitation of delegated authority, the readers and scholars will find that these articles strongly deal with the issue of jurisdiction, although the subject of jurisdiction is not limited to them. However, the intended preservation of the substantive rights of the people have been and are addressed with the established principles expressed within these articles. Supportive of these articles are the Bill of Rights, or really the 10 Bill of Rights, or the 10 Amendments, right? 14th and 15th Amendment are not necessary for the salvation of my people. That's what Noble Drew Ali said in the Divine Warning. So that comes after 10. 10 Bill of Rights. 14th is after 10. There's no need for that. That's what Noble Drew Ali said. Which is comprised of 10 amendments. These should be studied intently whenever any controversy arises concerning jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is the power to act and the power to succinctly, and the authority to do or to act in relationship to the limited authority assigned to a political seat, to a judgeship, to a court, to a trust, to any position in relationship to such exercises. The following relate to the secured rights of the people as embodied within the American Constitution. Whenever anyone is accused of a crime. You got something, Brother Hassan? Okay. Whenever anyone is accused of a crime or charged with an offense, the following rules are to be known, preserved, followed, and acknowledged as they are firmly in accord with the supreme law of the land. So let's get into it. Foundation was laid just now. Let's get into bullet points now. Accused must be properly identified. The accused must be properly identified in such a fashion where there is no room for mistaken identity. The individual must be singled out from all others. Otherwise, anyone could be subject to arrest and trial without benefit of wrong party defense. Almost always, the meaning of identification is a person's proper name. But any means of identification is equally valid if said means differentiates with the accused without doubt. There is no constitutionality valid requirement. You must identify yourself. See the Fourth Amendment. Also see Brown versus Texas and Cullender versus Lawson. So proper person, that goes back to the whole, what most people call the straw man and all this stuff, right? If you're your proper person, then you're not the straw man. One. And we also know about the injured party for a crime to be committed. But let me continue with the scope of what we're talking about right now. So a statute of offense must be clearly identified. The statute of offense must be identified in its proper or common name. A number is insufficient. So what was a violation? Vehicle code 987 or whatever. That'll be an example of numbers. Today, a citizen may stand in jeopardy of criminal sanctions for alleged violation of statutes, regulations, or even low-level bureaucratic orders. Example, Colorado National Monument Superintendent's order regarding an unleashed dog or a dog defecting on a trail. If a number were to be deemed sufficient, government could bring new and different charges at any time by alleging clerical error. For any fact to be triable as an offense, it must be declared to be a crime. Charges must negate any exception forming part of the statutory definition of an offense by affirmative non-applicability. In other words, any charge must affirmatively negate any exception found in law. So keep in mind, just to throw in here while we're going through this, well, for more indigenous people of the Americas, positive law, the measuring stick is the treaty. But that's why we talked about in the Constitution, which is the checks and balances for the pilgrims essentially to be here in America. All right. In that treaty, Article 3 and Article 6 takes you to the treaty. I mean, in the Constitution, to keep the pilgrims in check after they separated from their headquarters and the refugees over here. And everybody needs to read the letter. Whoever hasn't read it, Benjamin Franklin's letter to the Sultan of Morocco. He has a copy of this treaty, and he's asking our Sultan for approval. You know, he has a copy of what would be the Constitution, I should say, for the United States, for the pilgrims, for our elected officials' approval. All right. But the reason we stress in the Constitution, or the prophet say enforce the Constitution, is because that Constitution takes you to Article 6, Article 3, which takes you to the treaties or international law. Because Article 3 is telling you any disputes between a U.S. citizen and a non-U.S. citizen, federal level. Any ambassadors that represent a nation state, any disputes, federal level, right? The sheiks as ambassadors was supposed to be, when Noble Joe Ali had it set up, the sheiks of the temples were supposed to be the ambassadors of nation states. That's international law, which you're invoking. So municipal court would be the wrong jurisdiction, right? So we need to know these things. We need to be competent and aware of these things, as well as have a brotherhood, as well as have unity. and businesses. All right, so offense or nature of charge must be intelligently described. The acts of alleged offense must be described in non-prejudicial language in detail so as to enable a person of average intelligence to understand nature of charge, to enable proper defense. The actual acts or acts constituting the offense complained of. The charge must not be described by parroting the statute, not by the language of the same. The naming of the acts of the offense describes a specific offense, where the verbiage of a statute describes only a general class of offense. Facts must be stated. Conclusions cannot be considered in determining a probable cause. And that's back to the injured party, right? It needs to be an injured party for there to be a crime. You have to stay in those parameters. So continuing. Accuser must be positively identified. The accuser must be named. He, she, accuser may be an officer or a third party, but some positively identifiable person, human being, must accuse, right? Back to injured party. So I'm not going to just throw injured party out there because we have new people on here. So an injured party is a human being saying that you injured them or their property. When that happens, then a crime took place. So that's what I mean by injured party. Corpus delicti. All right. Some certain person must take responsibility for the making of the accusation, not an agency or institution. So let's analyze this. So it needs to be a human being saying you did something. It can't be an agency or an institution. What's a municipal corporation? If you didn't know, the city of whatever, when you grab the charter from their city hall or do a public information act request and request the charter, or you can just look it up online. You can just put the city of whatever charter and just Google it. It's gonna come up. When you analyze the charter of it's gonna say the city. It's gonna say municipal corporation doing business as the city of whatever. That municipal corporation has board members. They vote on stuff just like any other corporation or LLC or whatever. So their private law that they create only applies to the officers there, right? So that's an example of saying if the city of whatever says you did something, but you didn't injure the officer of the agency, that you just because you know, you threw trash out your car or whatever, they're saying you violated one of their private laws and nobody was hurt though. That's an example of violation of law. And we just need to know that. This is the only valid means by which a citizen may begin to face his accuser. Also, the injured party or corpus delicti must make the accusation. Hearsay evidence may not be provided. Anyone else testifying that they heard that another party was injured may not qualify as direct evidence. The accusation must be made under penalty of perjury. The accusation must be made under penalty of perjury. If the perjury cannot reach the accuser, there is no accusation. Otherwise, anyone may accuse another falsely without risk. Accused must be accorded due process. To comply with the 5 elements above that or for the accusation to be valid, the accused must be afforded due process. Accuser must have complied with law, procedure, and form in bringing the charge. This includes court-determined probable cause, summons, and notice procedure. If lawful process may be abrogated in placing a citizen in jeopardy, then any means may be utilized to deprive a man of his freedom, and all dissent may be stifled by utilization of defective process. But once again, due process. I'm not sure if everybody in here even comprehends what due process is, but I'm gonna go over it again. So due process is essentially a combination of the Fourth and Fifth Amendment in the sense of first, injured party, signed affidavit. It gets reviewed by a grand jury. The grand jury does an indictment. Then the indictment issues a warrant that's attached to an oath or affirmation that they took an oath to the whoever signed off on the warrant, attaches his oath that he took an oath to the Constitution. That's attached to that, and then we go from there. Any of these things, that chain of order that I just said is called due process. All right. So to comply with the 5 elements, okay, so accuser must have complied with law. Oh, we just read that. So basically, I summarized due process. Whoever didn't know that. The essential elements of due process are notice and the opportunity to defend. Simmons versus Kraft. One is not entitled to protection unless he has reasonable cause to apprehend danger from a direct answer. The mere assertion of a privilege does not immunize him. The court must determine whether his refusal is justified and may require that he is mistaken in his refusal. Hoffman versus the United States, 1951 case. The court must be of competent jurisdiction, properly delegated authority. So that's back to Article 3, where it talks about, is this court an inferior court? Of course it is, because it's not Congress. If it's not Congress, it's an inferior court. Okay. Since it's an inferior court, it needs to have delegation of authority from Congress to even exist. So that's the premise on that. So the court must be of one competent jurisdiction to have valid process. The tribunal must be a creature of its constitution in accord with the law of its creation, i.e. Article 3, judge, right? Article 3. Lacking any of the 7 elements or portions thereof, unless you waive your rights, of course, all designed to ensure against further prosecution or double jeopardy. It is the defendant's duty to inform the court of facts alleging for a determination of sufficiency to support conviction, should one be obtained. Otherwise, there is no lawful notice, and charge must be dismissed for failure to state an offense. Without lawful notice, there is no personal jurisdiction, and all proceedings prior to filing of a proper trial document in compliance with the 7 elements are void. A lawful act is always legal, but many legal acts by government are often void or unlawful. Most bureaucrats lack elementary knowledge and incentive to comply with the mandates of constitutional due process. They will make mistakes. Numbers beyond count have been convicted without a benefit of governmental adherence to these 7 elements. All right, so these are I wanted to go through that just for procedure purposes. Let's see. So Taraji Bey. So how you feeling with that, Brother Hassan, Vernon Watson Bey, and Taraji Bey? What are y'all thoughts in that space as far as law procedure as the Moor or the mind frame of the Moor dealing with litigation?
Islam. My thoughts on it is the principles of law are being applied. And I love how you're making the correlation between what the prophet is saying and how the United States legislation is laid down. Islam, I yield.
Islam. Brother Hassan, you got any thoughts?
Nah, brother. Most of it you were saying I already knew, and some of the other things that I didn't, I soaked it in. And I'm good.
Okay. Taraji, how you?
It's noted.
So I'm gonna read a verse from the Quran and close out officially, and then we can kind of miscellaneously the dialogue. Holy, so this first of all, this is the Quran, Circuit 7 Quran, finally prepared by Noble Jew Ali. Holy instructions and warning for all young men. Beware, young man. Beware of all allurements of wantonness, and let go, and let not the harlot tempt thee of excess in her delights. The madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits from the blindness of its rage. Thou shalt rush upon destruction. Therefore, give not up thy heart to her sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. The fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. The prime of thy old age shall overtake thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. But when virtue and modesty enlighten her charms, the luster of beauty, the luster of a beautiful woman, is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power, it is in vain to resist. The whiteness of her bosom transcendeth the lily. Her smile is more delicious than a garden of roses. The innocence of her eyes is like that of the turtle. Simplicity and truth dwell in her heart. The kiss of her mouth are sweeter than honey. The perfumes of Arabia breathe from her lips. Shut not thy bosom to the tenderness of her love. The purity of its flame shall enable thy heart and soften it to receive the fairest impressions. So the principles in this warning to young men, be careful of what shines and glitters. I don't know how many of us, have children in here, but you want to instill these things. Well, actually, I do know. I don't know about you, Bernard, but you want to instill these principles into young men in general. They don't even got to be your children. You might come across some youngsters for whatever reason, whatever capacity. Speak words of wisdom to them. Let them know about everything that glitters is not gold. You want to get to know the personality. Sit back and observe. So let me close out in prayer. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, my salvation, my light and by day, who was holy prophet, Noble Jew Ali. Amen. Let me close the recording off right quick.